Like, hi, everyone.
Hello. Welcome to episode 7.
And we have a guest.
We have a guest. We have our first guest.
First guest, that's fun.
I
Go ahead, you can introduce it.
Sharday she's like another little sister. She's best friends with my sister, and she also had a tremendous loss with her mom. And so today's topic is about parenting.
Girl, today.
It is Friday. It's been a long week.
Yeah.
Parenting and partnering through grief. And I think we're all moms here. So we can all talk to the parenting and partnering.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my God, am I going to cry already?
Oh,
I haven't cried on this. I haven't cried on it yet.
Oh, you did.
Girl, don't do it when I'm here.
I know. She's like, you're going to start
Why
now?
not? Yeah. You did it. No, I'm just kidding.
I just thought your approach to grieving was very raw and honest, and I appreciate how you've been there for me, because I know that it was Natalie was a tremendous loss to Sharday, but she also really wanted to provide support to me.
Sure.
And one of the first things she did, we have to start with this.
Yeah.
That hood sandwich I used to always make you and my sister.
Yeah.
Like
I still make it.
Yeah.
I do.
All right, let's.
I love a hood sandwich.
Listen, this was the hood sandwich that when Sharday used to sleep over, they would stay up late. They'd be like, "We're hungry," and I used to be like, "All right, I'm gonna go make y'all something."
Right.
And I used to come back with
It was like a white bread sandwich with American cheese, like government cheese.
Sure.
With garlic powder and like a huge slice of tomato.
Oh my. That's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
actually
just saying.
really good. It was like we had no cold cuts. Like,
Listen, I told you we used to make wish sandwiches.
We used to love it.
You close it and you just wish there was some meat in there. Like, ooh, there's that ham.
I'm like a wish. I'm like,
yes,
a wish.
It's
Like
a wish sandwich.
I thought it was like
but
French,
listen,
French
I love a
dressing.
hood. Listen, I love a hood sandwich.
So from time to time, I still make it because I'm
Why
like,
not?
it's
Good memory, too.
yes, it's a good memory.
Oh, I love that.
But that part of like bringing a little laughter. And it was just really great. And I
love
think
that. I love that you guys have that memory together.
Absolutely.
And you brought it up here.
Yeah. So just as a little bit of an intro, grief is a shared but unique experience. Grief looks different for every person within the family. So when you're parenting or partnering through grief, it could look different. It could look different for you than it does to your kids, than it does to your partner. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for your partner to be there for you emotionally. And it's
because your partner's not supposed to be there for you. They're not supposed to fill our cup.
Right.
100 with everything, right? But at least for that grief, it's like, dang, I just need you there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're expecting a certain thing that they probably don't understand. And
Well, you said the right word. Expecting.
Yeah.
When you have expectations, expect the disappointments.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Because that means that you fall too much on them and you don't even, what if they're grieving? Like, my husband's still grieving my brother.
Yeah.
His profile pictures are still with my brother.
Right.
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 So.
And you have to do the best you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when my ex-husband's mom passed away suddenly, I was like, I don't know if I'm doing everything right. You know, like I'm trying to take care of everything the best I can. And we have I think Olivia and CJ were like 4 and 5, like really small.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to like keep it all together. And you just hope that, people can see your effort, you know?
Yeah.
But definitely supporting, each other's individual grief journey, and I think the key is having mutual respect for the differences, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like if one person grieves a certain way, another person may not grieve the same way,
right?
Or they might think you're okay. It's just about having respect for everybody's journey.
That's actually one of our other episodes that we have in another season, that how genders grieve differently. So it's like 100%. So it's really hard, right? Because we're all females and we're nurturers, and they do, oh, you guys are so emotional. Yeah. And it's like, well, you know what? At least we're in touch with our emotions, unlike you guys. Like, at least we're not sitting there like, dealing with this like, just like we're feeling through everything. Right. We're not bottling everything up. So, I thought that was a great talking point with that.
But that's another thing too. It's like, my daughter head on was very emotional, and my son held things in.
Right.
Did you have the same experience? Because you have a boy and a girl as
right,
well.
but when my mom passed, Quinn wasn't even around. The girl wasn't around. It was Eli.
Right.
It was just Elijah. Elijah was in shock, and he went through his own traumatic experience for years until he finally got over it. Because the time that she died over a diabetic coma, that's what it was suddenly, and he was sleeping over her house.
Oh no!
So when I went to go pick him up, the door was closed and no one was answering, and I was like, argh. So I had to bum rush the door open to find that I was looking for everybody, calling him, and he looked startled, and I'm like, what's going on? He was like 4 or 5, I think, at the time. I opened the refrigerator, and there was like a mac and cheese, like, you know those ones that you put in the Velveeta?
Yeah.
It was full in a bowl in the refrigerator. So in my mindset, she had to have been out for a while, and he was trying to provide for himself.
Yeah.
But point of the story is that he wouldn't sleep over anyone's house for years.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, for years.
Traumatized. Oh my goodness.
He just got over it, I think, I want to say 10, 11, 12. But it was like, I want to come home. Like, after a certain time, he was calling me. I'm like, no, you have to get over this. It's okay. You know what I mean? You can pray. Everyone's going to be there. We're going to pick you up. But it was traumatic for all
a lot
of us,
of, like, separation anxiety.
Yeah. Or, like, I couldn't do anything.
Right.
And what happens if the person I'm sleeping, something happens and I'm not able to do anything either.
Right.
So it was tough.
Wow. And you're saying that he, I don't want to say get over it, right? But like he just finally started healing.
Yes. Yeah. He finally just started realizing, like, first of all, it's not his fault and he couldn't do anything, right? And the fact that, like, everything's going to be okay. Like, mom's going to come get you after, you know what I'm saying? It took us a while. Like, hey, when you feel that way, pray. When you remember God is with you, we're here. And then finally he started realizing that he can have fun. Like, he can be a kid, right? He was trying to be an adult way too fast. And he was bottling and holding it in. And we were like, no, you can't do that. So it was rough.
And even as a boy.
Yeah.
Like, as a boy, like, you know, as you said with CJ, it's the same thing, you know. Obviously, like, my kid is way too young. But I'll be honest with you, having a young kid will keep you present. Like, you know, even if you get a chance to and she's so empathetic already, like, it, you know, she'll see me crying and she's like, Mama's sad. Mama's sad. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, no. Like, and then she does the...
Oh, no.
And I'm like, well, do I cry because I made my daughter cry?
No, but and to this day, like, I'll be like holding it in and I'll cry and I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna like trigger Olivia crying or being upset. With Olivia, she's more like, she gets nervous if she, not that she can never get in touch with me, but I noticed right after Natalie passed, she'd be like, where are you? Like, if I told her to be home at 6 and it's like 6:03, she'd be like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then I said, do you want my location? I was like, just take my location, and like that you can always see. Yeah. And now it's kind of funny because I'd be like, no, because I was here. She's like, yeah, I saw you got home late. I'm like,
dang.
Hey, that was the
now you clocking me. Now you clocking me.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Of course, because you know how girls are.
Right, exactly. They're like, what is my mother up to?
Well, Elijah's 14 now.
Yeah.
And he's like another husband. Like, where are you at? 3 times. Text somebody else to say, like, no, dude, I said I was in, like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me you were going to stop somewhere else. Like,
right.
What?
I gotta check in now. Because they're so nervous about that. They're just afraid that you're not gonna come home, you know.
Right. And then with just life, how he can see how it evolved. Like, his mindset is like, oh my gosh, like, it gets closer to home every time something happens that he kind of holds on to. Like,
yeah. Did you put him in like grief therapy? And
no,
all that stuff?
I think our way to handle it with him, because he was like 4 or 5, so it was like just
very young.
You know what I'm saying? It was like little episodes, and then it would kind of go away, or just triggers. Church helped him. He used to sing, and he was very active in the kids ministry, so that kind of helped him through.
Yeah. The church is just an amazing resource, especially if it's a place where he's comfortable. They have like the youth services, So I think that's great. See, for me, I go to like a very young, like it's a very young demographic, and it's great because the kids are teens, so they can kind of like fit into stuff. How did the loss of your mom affect your approach to parenting?
I think at one point I may have forgotten that I was a parent, right? Because I was like, I'm a daughter right now. Like, that has to stop. Like, my husband has to step up. You have to be the parent because I have to take time to be a daughter. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was my thing. So for 2 weeks I was absent from Eli and work, and I was sleeping in the hospital because my mindset was she was going to come back, right? We took her off the incubator. and she was good. And then I had a business flight in Cali. I went to Cali, and then I got the call 2 days later that she flatlined, and I was like, oh. So then I had to fly back on a red eye, and I still had hope, but I wasn't present. And so when it was addressed like, hey, you haven't been home, it was like, you know what I mean? Wait a minute, I'm a daughter right now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And then after she passed, and now I have to clean up, and I have to go through everything. I'm the oldest. My sister's younger, so
I'm the oldest. We're all the oldest here, so we're in charge.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's
all in charge.
So it was up to me to make the decision if I wanted to take her off the machines or not. You know what I mean? Because she didn't have a husband, so it was. So that alone was like, I'm not ready to be a parent at this moment, right? That doesn't mean that I neglected Elijah, but I kind of felt like in order for me to be the best parent, I need to come to terms either to realize, okay, this is my life now. Do you know what I'm saying? Didn't have a dad when I grew up. He wasn't in my life either. So at that point, my mindset was like, I'm an orphan.
You're an orphan, yeah.
Here? You know what I mean? So I think my approach didn't come until like years after. And I'm also not the nurturing kind of sort of, you know what I mean? So I had to like come, all right, daughter passed, I closed that chapter for a while, and then I kind of just jumped into parenting, and I don't think it took me a while to coexist both of them. Like I'm still a daughter, even though she wasn't present. But I didn't know how to bring the two together without feeling bad for Eli. You know what I mean? So it was tough.
Yeah, it's a very complex thing to deal with. I mean, being a daughter and then also being a mom at the same time, and you feel like you're mourning a part of your life, but you still have this other responsibility, and you don't really know how to approach it. For sure.
And
absolutely.
even so, like, even with you and your partner, how did you guys, just even deal with grief? Like, obviously you talked about Eli, obviously it does come up. You guys are both human, you know. Like, how do you guys deal with grief?
So he still is very blessed. He has the mom and dad still present, right? And so I think in his mind is I have a very tough character. So it was kind of like, wait, is she sad? Is she like, I'm not sure how she's, you know what I mean? So I know that when we buried her, right? I remember him going up to his mom and his dad and being like, she has no parents. And they came up to me and didn't know, like, should I hug her? Should I not? You know what I mean? Because
they didn't know how to embrace you.
Right. And I think, too, during that time, even my husband didn't know how to embrace me. Because I can be rough around the edges. So it was like, well, you're not supposed to be doing that. But you were supposed to be doing this. And I think me trying to go through it. It was kind of like, well, do I do something? Do I not do anything? And because we were more around his parents, I think I also held kind of sort of onto the fact, like, no, you weren't around.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that wasn't it. Right. But in my mind, it's like,
I needed you more.
Yeah, or like we were around your parents more, and we didn't get to be around my mom as much as we were with your parents. So like now you being present like in my stubborn selfishness, I'm like, I don't need you right now. You know what I mean? And so through all that, I then had to realize, like, to put my guard down with him, because he's not the bad guy.
No.
But to me, he was the bad guy. You had
resentment.
Yeah.
You had resentment. Well, that's because that's also the part of the grief, the anger.
Yeah.
Like, well, let me blame someone else because I didn't get enough time to spend with my mom.
Right.
I didn't have that, to create more memories.
Right. The shoulda, coulda, woulda is kind of what
correct.
I went through.
Right.
So it was rough. I mean, now it's kind of sort of we can deal with it. I mean, even then, I know the episode before, you probably talk about anniversaries and whatever. So when the anniversary comes up and it is 8:01 in the morning, if I don't get a text message from you, even if it's 7 years later, like, my man, what are you doing?
Yeah. True story. Yeah.
You're like, hello.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So praise God for Facebook when it's like, hey, 7 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
But you kind of still expect that, and every year he kind of does better and whatever. And and again too, I kind of feel like you go through so much and there's so much grief, right? You have one, and then a few years later, then it's another one, and that one hits even harder than this one.
Right.
And then you realize, man, I didn't even grieve this one like I was supposed to. And so you set up this boundary that you're like, hey, you can't touch this. Right. But then when he tries to touch it, in which he should, because you're the fragile glass, now you're like, hey, you're too much.
Right.
So it's kind of,
But isn't that so strange too? Like, we all, like, few episodes behind, we all talked about like, listen, we're not going to live forever. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So like, how do we also soften that blow, right? Like, how do we get to that point that like, okay, well, you know, your husband's parents, eventually they're going to go. Like,
I know,
you know,
right?
like eventually like, you know, how do we get to a point that it's like, we're accepting like this is the circle of life, you know? And it's so difficult to get to understand that.
Right. And I kind of beat myself up sometimes because I'm like, oh my gosh, God forbid, right? You know what I'm saying? Something happens to them. And I'm like, I was out here holding him to all of the levels, and who knows if I'm going to be able to even meet a level that he needs when he goes through it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's like a learning every single year, every single month, or every trigger. Sometimes the triggers are hard. Right. But he is present, even if it's just silence. Yeah. He's there.
There's a body there.
Yeah, and sometimes that's needed because it's like you say something and you're like, no, that's not what I needed to hear. You know, so I'd rather like silence because I don't know what I need to hear, but I'm going to tell you that's not what I needed to hear. Do you know what I mean? So it's rough.
Yeah.
I was looking for this thing that my cousin sent me about it being a privilege to be able to grieve with someone.
But, you know, what were you doing, you know, while Elizabeth's looking for that, you know, when it came to like self-care, like around that time, right? Because if you weren't parenting, like if you weren't parenting, like, yeah, I'm like queen of self-care. I think even my clients are like, Jessica, enough with the self-care. And I'm like, no.
You're like, but did you take a bath today?
But did you take a, right, like, did you eat a full, like an actual meal, not a wish sandwich.
Right, yeah.
Or a hood sandwich.
I will never get over that wish sandwich. Take a piece of bread and wish something was there.
I wish there was a piece of meat on this. Yes. Yeah. So what did you do for, like, your self-care?
I think I was always busy, so I held a lot of responsibility.
Sure.
So I was a treasurer in the local church that I attend for the Women's Society. At that point, I was the marketing coordinator for a big brand. So I was in and out of like the state. So I was forced to self-care because I can't be out here looking a mess. You know what I mean? No. But behind closed doors, when like the night happens within my own, like I was a mess. Eating to me was always rough, right? And it's not like you eat and then you're like, and you're like, what am I eating? You know what I mean?
You forced yourself.
Right. But I think that the first few years, if we're being completely honest, one, God first absolutely got me through, because if it wasn't for that, I would be a hot mess, right? But I don't think I was given time to grieve. It was like, you have a responsibility.
That's it.
You have to do this. You have to work. Like, you already got your 7 days of bereavement or whatever.
Oh, that's a whole other story.
You see what I'm saying? Like, like you have to come back in.
You get no time, right?
And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And so I think that the self-care, thank God that it was forced.
Right.
Because if it wasn't, like, I would have been, like, lost.
Yeah. I mean, that's where, God, a couple days bereavement. I mean, I had 5 days to bury 2 people.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Right.
Impossible.
Yeah. And then the Navy wants to put a memorial, which was amazing, but it's like you have to make time for that. And that's in Virginia. And then their bodies are in North Carolina. And then, you know, I think having to go to work.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Like, it made me brush my teeth, which I didn't do for 2 days, you know, which is like unheard of, you know.
You know what I did? I actually was writing out thank you cards. I don't know what it was.
Being in your gratitude.
Yeah, I just wanted to send thank you to, like, some people. They had given me, like, it was like maybe $20, $30, like towards like the funeral or towards whatever, or food or whatever. Yes. And and people were like, wait, what do you mean? Why are you sending me thank you cards? Like, why aren't you in your grief? And I'm just kind of like, I enjoy doing this. Yes. I enjoy sending thank you cards.
It also reminds you that you're loved when these people do things for you.
Yes,
you know?
And then I remembered to send thank you cards, right? Because I feel like that's also forgotten. I'm going to call it a forgotten art because, you know, and I call it art only because it's just, I don't know, you're writing with your signature, like everything's like a text or an email. It's very personalized now. Yeah. So, you know, I just felt like, you know, look, my handwriting is neat. Yeah. I'm okay.
Right.
But I just wanted to say thank you, and I see you, and I appreciate. Yeah. Thank you for coming, or thank you for.
I did try to make a text to everybody who I remembered coming to the wake, and I'm sure that there's people that I don't remember.
Oh my gosh, I did not.
But I went through.
You're fine. No judgment.
I went through my text messages, and I was like, thank you for being at the wake. I'll never forget it.
Right.
Yeah. That's like what I sent like everybody who I remember, because I was just like, I just want people to know that like, thank you so much for being there.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
Right.
So I found the text that my cousin sent me. And this is along with the partnering, right?
Sure.
So it said, it's actually a tweet. So somebody says, jokes aside, I think people should really be more focused on the minor acts of love / care when picking a partner. A partner that won't make you feel bad or uncomfortable in your humanness. Snoring, hair, sickness, fluids, depression, grief. So important when partnering forever. And this person responds, that's the kind of love that doesn't shrink when things get real.
Yeah.
The kind where grief is met with patience and imperfections feel like a privilege to witness rather than something to fix.
That is
That's
beautiful.
powerful.
So I just feel like that my engagement was over very soon after my sister passed.
Awful.
And it was just an awful experience.
Just to experience that right after.
Right.
Like, that's like another loss.
Yeah.
It's another loss. It's another death.
And I don't even think I've really grieved that relationship because I've been so focused on my sister.
Right. Yeah.
But it really was a wake-up call that the person that I was with was not somebody who was built for this.
Right.
Who didn't feel like grieving with me was a privilege. And when I sat down with that person and I said, we're going to have to bury our parents. Both of our parents are still alive. Like, this is not the way this goes. No. You can't treat me like this after such a tremendous loss in my life.
Right.
So ultimately I ended the engagement, and it was, it was pretty calm because it had to be.
Right.
But I just think that's really important. Like when you're picking a partner, I think that there's so much content and rhetoric out there about having somebody with money or 6'4" or this or that. All whatever you think is important, I guarantee you, when you have to bury somebody that you love, you are not going to think about how tall that man is, or how much money that man has in his pocket,
or the car he's driving,
he's driving. That is, you really need, when you are picking a partner for life, to look at them and say, if I have to bury my mom or my sibling, is this person emotionally available?
Right. But that's the problem. That people aren't thinking like that when they're jumping into relationships and getting
And there's
married.
no way to really tell.
Correct.
But I think you should definitely do the work and I think that should be a question when you meet with somebody. Like, before you marry someone, you should ask them, like, have you ever lost somebody?
Have you ever been to
a funeral? You know what I mean? It's not like, have you ever seen a dead body? Like, Like, no.
How do you feel about that?
So cringy.
Yeah, you want to say, like, hey, how have you had any, like, tremendous loss? Or, like, how did you deal with that? Sometimes you'll see somebody with a tattoo and they'll say, like, oh, yeah, that was my, like, it almost happened to me at the nail salon. Like, I have, is that your name? And I'm like, no. And then I'm like...
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wasn't ready. Yes. But, sometimes you ask and you say, like, have you ever had a loss? How did you deal with it? So that you can kind of understand how people deal with grief.
Yeah.
Right. I think, too, in retrospect, it also kind of gives you the other light where we kind of sometimes take for granted of the partner that we do have, that we're super blessed to have.
Yes.
That, they annoy me.
Amen.
Yeah, you don't this. But when you think about that, you're like, you know what? Through it
Gratitude.
all, we were there.
Yeah. May have not loaded the dishwasher, but he held me when I needed it.
Right.
Don't go there.
Doing the dishes is such a point of contention for every relationship. Like, I see it all over TikTok. We're a little short on time now.
Yes.
I wanted to thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and sharing your story, and we appreciate it. And again, I'm sorry for your loss and two losses.
Sorry for you guys too. I think this is great what you guys are doing. A lot of times nowadays, it's like you have to be strong, and society, it's all about being funny, how many likes you can get for how many people you're making laugh. But this is like the serious thing, because we're losing people after losing people because no one wants to talk about the loss. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. And don't forget, follow, subscribe,
like,
share. We do want the like. We do want the
We do want the likes.
We do
want the likes. We want the comments.
We want you guys to also let us know how much you enjoy listening to us.
Either you have loss, or somebody who has had this loss.
Yeah.
And
absolutely,
we need to really build community around it.
Right, because it's okay to grieve.
That's
absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye. See you soon.